It's very eerie. It's just very, very quiet.
And like that's the starkest change is like physically seeing the city empty out.
It was kind of a very stark transition.
It just became really quiet.
We were very normal, and then all of a sudden it wasn't very normal.
I'll try and show you from my window. I live in a cross street in Brooklyn. So every morning this is like just jam packed with people. So from like 6:30 to 9 it's just a carnage, and it's mostly empty as you just saw.
New York is in a really tough situation right now, and I think the quiet and somewhat peaceful nature of the neighborhood isn't really reflecting that.
The news is so sad and somber and frightening.
You'd usually hear a siren maybe once every 45 minutes. But then when you're sat out here during the day, it's been like once every 8 to 10 minutes, which is presumably mostly ambulances taking people to the hospitals around Brooklyn, which is a pretty worrying thought.
I was flirting with the idea of flying back to Scotland to like be with my family. I think I probably didn't learn the lessons from Asia and kept thinking that this would be different for us, and that like, okay, this will be like a week off or 2 weeks off. And then I'd get to the end of that 2 weeks and then it's like, okay, well, how much longer will it be? And I think I just kept pushing it back and back. If I could go back in time and do it all over again, I probably would have came home right at the start.
I felt that if I went back to the UK, that sort of my job could be in jeopardy for a start.
I think when it first all started happening, I wondered whether I should go back to the UK, and then I had another wave of thinking whether I should go back to the UK.
At the time I was thinking about moving back, the UK was maybe a little slower to respond to the pandemic. And so I wasn't actually convinced that it was going to be any safer for me to be back in the UK.
I eventually have kind of like created a bit of a safe haven in my own apartment with my flatmate, which seemed a much safer space to stay than going ahead and travelling and getting on an aeroplane and crossing through 2 airports, etc.
I'm not actively worried about it, but let's say I started to develop symptoms. I quite literally have no idea what my next steps would be. I don't know. I mean, it would genuinely be that I would have to start Googling because I have no idea where I would go, what the process is. I have no idea like which hospital I'm meant to go to.
I have health insurance, but that is still a worry that you have a deductible that you have to meet before the health insurance kicks in.
I'd have to reach out to my employer's HR department and ask for their advice about which hospital can I go to, which one can't I go to. Because yeah, like small procedures and surgeries in the US that would be free in the UK can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. I have no idea what this would cost you.
That is a huge thing that's frightening to me because it's so unknown, and but I am covered through health insurance, so I'm very fortunate in that way. But I still don't know how it would play out.
There's now a more compelling argument for a national health service in the United States. I'd like to see it happen. I'd like to see people having more accessibility to healthcare. I'd like to see people leaving hospital and not getting hit by a several $1,000 bill in the future. But I think in the coming weeks, we're going to see a lot more of that.
I think the concern that anyone who's an expat or an immigrant has is that it's sort of unclear what benefits we might get if I was to lose my job. I don't really know if I would be able to get an employment benefit. It would be very hard for me to get a new one, and then that would probably mean a huge change in my life moving back to the UK.